Mountaineer Nation, let's ride.
But Don Nealon's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread. As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football. Here is Harris in trouble. Stiff arms. The would-be tackler comes down over the 25 to 20. Goes around about it to 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
Takes the Slater one-on-one with the defender. Look at that one.
West Virginia football. Hey, you know what that's about. They don't know what it's about. West Virginia football. Put on our table.
Let them know. Leave no doubt tonight. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back to the Country Roads webcast, our weekly Q&A stream, or semi-weekly, I guess. Missed last week with the short week, but we're back at it again this week. Just our little time here on game week to get together with the Country Roads webcast community, let you guys kind of guide the conversation for the most part. So whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, jump in the comments there. Drop your WVU football questions, comments, concerns. We'll address them as we go throughout and hit on some talking points we got in the meantime, in between time. But as always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz. Got my co-host with me. We've got Steven.
Who is muted? How is everybody doing tonight?
Hey, don't steal my move, man.
Sorry, man. I'm running out of moves. I gotta.
And of course, Bradley as well. Big Bubba Brad here.
Yeah, I'm here as always, glowing. My forehead's yellow and gold, but it's all right. We're here.
Hey, man. That's what
it's all about the lighting, man.
It's WVU color, so
working
it's
on
all good. Silas in here. Country Roads webcast. Let's ride. Silas, glad to see you in here. You're always one of the first ones and definitely one of the most consistent, of course, always in here on the chat and the Q&A. So good to see you, Silas. Hope you're having a good week and hoping for a good day Saturday. But that being said, talking points, gentlemen, I know we all might have a little something, but Steven, I know you had something you definitely wanted to bring up and possibly touch on, and then maybe you guys in the chat can comment on this as well and give us your thoughts, and we'll kind of touch on it a little bit. But I'll let you take it away, Steven.
Well, without getting into any too deep into it, I guess, or without revealing anybody, because I'm not going to give away who I spoke to, but somebody that does sit in on the board of directors meetings quite often told me last year whenever I spoke to him that the school has purchased land in another part of Morgantown in which they plan on building a new football stadium. Originally, when I first heard that news, I didn't really know how to take that. But as I was, with a lot of time to digest it, I think I'm still quite on the fence about it. But I guess the main topic that I wanted to bring up was to see how everyone else thought, and just in general, about whether they would prefer to keep the new stadium or keep Milan Puskar Stadium, or would the majority of Mountaineer Nation be accepting to building a new stadium in which there could be better plans for concession areas, parking areas, just a multitude of different things. You could have better seating. Not that the seating is at all bad in Milan Puskar Stadium now, but with that being an option in the future for the school, I just kind of wanted to bring that up and see how everybody else thought about that idea. I myself, I think I'm still on the fence as of right now, because being someone who's attended so many games in Milan Puskar Stadium and Mountaineer Field, I love that stadium and that location. I wish that they would just keep renovating that and updating that stadium, which is not, if anybody here, which I know me and Cruz and Bradley, you too, been to a few venues, that Milan Puskar Stadium is by far and away a professional stadium compared to some of the other ones. Not to mention any other ones, but Maryland, they were pretty bad.
I was about to say it if you weren't going to say it. So.
Yeah, but anyway, I not to get too far off topic, but I'm still on the fence, because I do think that there's a lot of things that could be done better. But having said that, what are you guys' thoughts?
Oh man, I'm kind of like you. I'm a little bit on the fence about it. I definitely think possibly adding a bigger seat stadium would be good for West Virginia, because I feel like if we had 70,000, we'd put 70,000 in there. I feel like whatever we have, West Virginia will be able to sell it out on a pretty consistent basis within reason, of course. So, I'm all for upgrading Milan Puskar. I think as far as a new stadium, I don't know. I mean, I think it would probably be super state of the art. So that's definitely, on the pro side of it. But then, of course, like you said, the con side of it is what we're all used to. And then I think it's a great location right there with the hospital and, many other things that go into it. So yeah, I'm definitely would be on the fence about it too myself, personally. But it's hard to say. I think a lot of people that would be against it probably, once they seen, like, if they saw pictures, like, of blueprints of what the new stadium could look like, they would probably change their mind. Because I seen just yesterday or day before, Northwestern released what their stadium's going to look like, their new one that they're working, and it looks awesome. And
which
something
is
state of the art
the
like
reason,
that, if people seen it, they would come around.
Yeah, well, that's the reason I that's what sparked it, backed up in my mind, because it wasn't brought up again anytime recently. This is, like I said, this is something I spoke to this person about a year ago. And so when these plans are going to take place, I have no idea if they are. This could be, something, land that they've purchased just for the possibility of building one. But, I was told with a pretty matter of fact, tone, that's what the plans were, with the land that they purchased, which is, I understand it was near the near Woodburn, which is where the old Mountaineer Field was. Right. So that might be something that could intrigue Mountaineer fans. Which, what was Mountaineers thought? What was the general thought process of Mountaineer fans whenever they were tearing down old Mountaineer Field to build new Mountaineer Field?
Yeah, that's what's the changes. Change is hard either way you spin it, really. No matter what, when it comes eventually, whether it be upgrading the stadium or moving to a new one, which I guess eventually will happen, whether it be sooner or later. So, but definitely, I think it's one of the things it's definitely an interesting topic to talk about. Bradley, what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I think I'm more along the lines of keeping Milan Puskar Stadium and upgrading it, because I do like where it's at. And I'm going to go ahead and jump to a little bit kind of what Silas said in here, because it's relevant to what I want to say. He says the problem is WVU medicine in the hospital continues to grow. Yeah, you got to parking is a mess. So if a new stadium were easily accessible right off of I-79 with parking, I'm in. And I think that's right where you're looking at, because the new exit down past 140 or 154 down there's like 156 now. That
the
new
interchange.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what its named is, but I can believe it. It's up kind of like where the baseball field is now. They put that in the new Bass, the new Bass Pro Shops, stuff like that. That wasn't there when I was in Morgantown just 2 years ago.
That wasn't there last year.
Yeah, as I said, when I left in 2020, they had they had put in the baseball field and had started kind of working on that exit, but in those couple of years, they've really started to grow that up. And if they bought up area, I'm guessing that's where that's at. It makes sense. It's right off I-79. There's a lot of open space. It's not developed yet. They could really make it the focal point and build around it. Me personally, I just like it next to the Children's Hospital because of the history that we have with the Children's Hospital. Losing that would be a little tough. But it is in a tough spot. I mean, you're looking at having to buy out a lot more things because you've got apartment buildings that are right there around the stadium that are kind of taking up all that prime space, right on the other side of the Ronald McDonald House between them and the McDonald's, trying to connect from there to Towers, trying to eat up that side where between, like that triangle of the stadium, Towers, and law school. That would be the most ideal place to, kind of spread out to and kind of get that parking. But that would be so much money that you're probably not willing to sink $5 million into buying all those places out just to put in some parking spots. But I don't know. I would like to see Milan Puskar upgraded. I'd like to see our press box updated. I think that our press box is looks a little old. I think that, it would probably be good. But I think that I agree with Jordan, though. I think that we could put, an extra 10,000 seats in that stadium, and we would probably fill it a good portion of the time. I think we'd still hit high percentages, and I think that we could handle it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep.
I think which would WVU fan 23 here brings up a good point. I think good to see you in here again, WVU fan 23. By the way, appreciate you chiming in as always. But he says they need to take out the touchdown terrace for the corporate businesses and put in more seating for the general public to make it louder inside the stadium. I agree with that. I think a lot of people have been, saying that about taking out touchdown terrace to add, an extra 5,000-10,000 whatever to the stadium, and make it more of a bowl type on that end as well. What are your all's thoughts on that as far as upgrades to Milan Puskar Stadium? I know, Bradley, you mentioned the press box, and I'd agree with that. At least put a WV logo or paint it or something, get it just instead of that plain gray. It's kind of like the walls used to be, and they just look how much better the stadium walls look now just with the West Virginia graphics on it. So maybe something like that even. But if we're talking just Milan Puskar Stadium upgrades, I think taking out touchdown terrace and the press box would be good ones. But what about you guys? Anything else you can think of as far as upgrades you'd like to see at Mountaineer Field?
Well, going along with touchdown terrace, I've always thought that it would be a good idea to take out touchdown terrace and move the student section down in the end zone.
Yeah.
If not to build down on the other end zone, if you could, and put the students in that end zone as well and have them on both ends, if you could in some way, because I feel like that's where they make the most impact is when they're right there on the field, right there in the end zones, in the red zone and field goal situations. All that, man. I think that especially not only in football, but in basketball as well. I think that move them off the side and put them on the end zone and put them down on the field. I think that, you'll have the most impact out of your student section if you do that. That's what I've always thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like where our basketball student section is right there on the sideline because you're taking up the whole court. You're really in their ear the whole whole game.
Oh, I like it too. I think they would have more of an impact, like on free throw situations and stuff. I think that
for sure. But I mean, that you just got Coliseum's rocking anyway. But I do agree that having the student section down there, a little bit more relevant in football games would be big because I was going to kind of compare them to the fact that our basketball, our student section for the basketball teams have an awesome spot, to really just be on top of the court the whole time. It doesn't feel that way with football. You've got one little small student section and then, everybody's in the upper. It makes sense. There's a lot of money to be lost by giving free tickets away down to the lower section. But, yeah, I like it when those terrace. I think this question was also kind of posed additions to the stadium on Twitter the other day that I saw Coos getting involved with. I don't necessarily remember who posed the question first, but I remember Coos bringing up the fact that it would be nice to have a little bit of a better entrance for our football players. Something a little bit more exciting than what we got right now with just the big open space. Just like a better entrance.
Got an idea for that too. Whenever you're finished.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, I've told Cruz this many times, and I know he's on board with this idea, and I think a lot of Mountaineer Nation would also be on board with this idea. But You know, a lot of people aren't in favor of a black uniform or any rendition of that in football for some reason, but I think if you paired that with a quote unquote, I know this term's used a lot, but a coal rush, and then do the entrance for that, for the night game for that, and I know they have the technology to do it now, but turn the lights off in the stadium. The only lights that you have may be coming from the stands, but the main light that you have is from coal miner helmet, or maybe one or maybe a bunch of them for all of the football players, but mainly just one coming out of the tunnel, and then have some fog coming in too. Have some bells with that,
awesome.
and you can't tell me that wouldn't outdo Enter Sandman for one of the best entrances of college football right there. I promise you, that will send chills down your spine.
Maybe they come out of a Mountaineers drop cage, you know, the elevator shafts, you know, those giant metal racks.
Hey, the man trip, the actual man trip. That would be nice.
Yeah.
See, now we're thinking.
Yeah, so just coming out of that would be pretty elite.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the entrance thing. I think that's something that's kind of been lackluster for a while now for us. Like the last one I remember that really got me excited was, you know, when they came out of the helmet, and that's been at least a decade ago, probably, or more at this point.
Oh, I used to love coming out of the helmet, man.
It's been like at least 10 years ago. I know. Yeah. It's nostalgia.
They brought that
nostalgia at its finest.
They brought that helmet down here one year. They had it was either a fish fry or a pig roast that they had at the Brushfork Armory, and they had Bob Huggins, and they brought Tony Caridi and everybody down here, and they did the coaches show over there. But they brought that helmet down here, and I remember just being a little kid and like being inside of the helmet, like thinking there's no back to the helmet. And now I'm thinking, well, duh, like I got to get in there somehow.
Yeah, it's like, how else would I go? They walk around front. And
the whole team just crammed in here, and they just
they put the helmet over top of them after they were all in there.
Yeah. What's crazy is they did inflate and deflate that thing every single game. That's what's wild.
Yeah, that is wild. That is wild. Oh, we got a question in here from Grant Wiley, Esquire. Couple questions, a little three-parter here for us. Will Reese Smith be returning punt Saturday? Will Texas
Hopefully
punt?
Not.
Will McCormick turn around at least once in coverage? Will Reese Smith be returning punt Saturday? I'm going to say yeah. I hope not, but I'm going to say yeah. I think Neil Brown kind of has a loyalty thing to him. I know I didn't even think about it, but somebody mentioned it, like, because I think the hometown connection, he's probably close with the family, you know, type deal. And I think we saw a similar situation with the Jarrett Dagey situation, really. So maybe Neil Brown has a soft spot for certain people, and I think Reese Smith is definitely a candidate there because it seems like everybody else has got the hook, but he's muffed 2 punts and hasn't. As far as will Texas punt, that remains to be seen. I'm a little nervous about there. I'll say, yeah, they'll punt, though. Hopefully a few times, but yeah, once. They definitely will at least once. Will McCormick turn around at least once in coverage? I'm hoping to see more spells, and that's all I'll say about that. Anybody else want to touch on anything there?
Yeah, I do. I want to jump on the Reese Smith because I thought it was funny. I was listening to the In the Gun podcast with Owen Schmidt and Jed Drenning and Will Euler, and they talked about Reese. They brought him up. Yeah, Wes. Sorry.
Get it right, Brad.
What did I say?
What? I don't know. I didn't pay attention.
Anyway.
I missed it.
But they had brought up, Reese Smith, and I was really curious to get Jed Drenning's opinion on it because obviously, like I said, that guy has a real finger on the pulse. I mean, he's in there seeing stuff that nobody else can see. He's really allowed a lot of backdoor access. And, they were also taking it easy on Reese, but I just thought it was so funny that, Owen Schmidt's also a coach over at Greenbrier West. These are two guys that have done a little bit of coaching that really know football. And Owen Schmidt at one point in time had said, I think their general synopsis was obviously if Reese hasn't come out, there's a reason because there's nobody behind him so far that's proven that they can do it any better than he can. And Owen Schmidt was – Owen Schmidt had said to that point he said, you need somebody that can just go out there and catch every ball that comes their way. And in my head, it goes, Preston Fox, how many times have we heard those words about that boy?
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan.
I was gonna say, it doesn't matter if he's doing it against the ones there. He's just got to catch a football.
Yeah, he's just literally just got to catch it.
And the one time we saw him back there, he caught it and gained like almost 30 yards. So it's like, why not give him a shot?
And so it's like, it was just funny to me to hear them say that, because it's like, who's the one person we've heard that about over and over and over again, and then we're not going to give it a try. We're not going to give it a shot. Like Jordan said, everybody else has been hooked and pulled off, but not.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I get it. Yeah,
and seeing it still rings true. That still rings true to me. We've won the last 2 games, and we're sitting pretty in Mountaineer Nation right now, but that's still, I don't. My main gripe with Coach Neil Brown right now is that he has too many excuses. It's never, we got to get to work. It's always, there's swirling winds. There's this and there's that. Like, you need to make decisions that are going to be for the better of the team instead of for the better of your personal relationships with some of these guys.
I would even argue against that. I think that it shows a lack of understanding, because tell me what's going to happen if Reese Smith steps out there and drops another punt.
Oh, it's going to be, if he muffs a punt in this football game, it will cost us the football game against Texas.
But yeah, you tell me what's going to happen on Twitter. You tell me what's going to happen to Reese Smith if he drops another punt. You tell us, and he was one that
unfortunately, I know what'll happen, and we know what'll happen. But
yeah, and there's nobody's fault except for Neil Brown's on that. He has dropped 2. He has shown that I think that he's a little bit rattled back there as it is right now. He was trying to catch punts, off his helmet anyway. It was not good, and so I know you like Reese Smith, but shouldn't you save him from what might happen if he drops another punt?
Yeah, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for Reese Smith, and it'd be bad for Neil Brown too, with hearing it from the fans. Is it already, if it isn't bad enough already, especially in regards to the punt returns and not having somebody be able to catch one, which seems to be, for some reason, something that's plagued us for a while at West Virginia. But when you brought up In the Gun podcast, I'm glad you did do that, because that brought me to another talking point I wanted to bring up to you guys. I was listening to their episode today and hearing Jed Drenning talk about the Texas defensive coordinator. I think it's Pete Kwiatkowski. I know it's Kwiatkowski. I think his name's Pete, but and how he has kind of specialized in stopping air raid offenses. Specifically, he was at Washington for a long time playing Mike Leach when Mike Leach was at Washington State. And I think they won 6 games in a row against Mike Leach. And Mike Leach's offenses never scored over 20 points against Kwiatkowski's defenses. And then when Graham Harrell was at USC for the one season, he also faced Kwiatkowski and only put up 14 points. So he's kind of been known as an air raid stopper, which kind of stood out to me. Also, the one time Graham Harrell faced him, he was on a third-string quarterback, so maybe that's a little bit of aberration there in the Graham Harrell situation. But I also think that Graham Harrell runs his air raid a lot different than Mike Leach. But also being a part of those Washington State staffs and seeing what Kwiatkowski did may help us as well, because Graham Harrell was the receivers coach on some of those Mike Leach teams. But hearing that about Kwiatkowski, does that make you a little bit more nervous for the game and for the Texas defense and how they can attack the West Virginia offense? Stephen, what do you
think? No, not really, because there's always something, to me, there's always an underlying storyline with coaches or players, pretty much in today's game. When you're playing in conference, you're going to have at least somebody in your staff that knows something about the other team. So I don't really, I guess I'd be remiss to say if I didn't dive too much into that for the Pitt game, because I was, I really was kind of letting that drive my thought process a little bit, being how there were so many USC connections. But for this one, I don't really know. I think more so, I don't really know if I'm nervous about this game. I'm more indifferent, if you will, because I don't really know if I expect West Virginia to win. I don't mean for that to sound so bad and negative. But this is the game for me that West Virginia is going to have to prove to me that they can keep the ball rolling. You know what I mean? Like, after those first 2 games, I was so far down. This is the game now that you're going to have to show me that we can actually do something this year and still make it somewhat a good year. So I'm not really nervous. Like normally I get nervous because I want to win so bad and I get scared we're going to lose. And I guess that's somewhat a good thing for us to be in this position for my nervous system and my health.
No, I agree.
But
I'm right there with you because I think, well, in my head, the way I'm looking at it, like, is I'm trying just not to put too much into it because I know that if I do, it's gonna like break my heart if we lose because it really is an important game for both these teams that, West Virginia and Texas, as far as staying in the Big 12 race. And, because whoever loses falls to 0-2 in conference. So, I'm trying to, I guess, temper my expectations a little bit so as not to get my heart broken because we know how that goes. Life as WVU fans, for sure. But Bradley, what about you as far as Kwiatkowski, the Texas defensive coordinator, and the success he's had against air raid offenses? Does that make you worry a little bit more for Saturday, or do you think that maybe Graham Harrell knowing that also in turn could maybe help West Virginia knowing figuring out some different ways to attack because he's seen what doesn't work?
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't worry me at all, I think. And that's because if you've listened to any of Graham Harrell's press conferences, because the one thing that's annoyed me a bunch is it just seems like every single time Graham Harrell gets interviewed, they ask him, how did you feel being an air raid offense coming from Mike Leach? What's that like? And I feel like, guys answered it 25,000 times now, guys. He's not going to answer it any different.
Literally.
And I'm going to answer it the same way he answers it. The air raid is completely different from person to person. And, his isn't the same as Mike Leach's. And his is, it's all about, it's not about throwing the ball. It's about attacking grass. And you've heard him say before that, it doesn't matter what the defense is. There's always going to be open space, and you just got to be able to find it and throw to it. And, we've been running the ball more than we've been passing it, really. And, you've got JT Daniels back there that is an elite decision maker that can look at a defense and be able to adjust to it on the fly, which you're not going to have with almost any other quarterback. I've never seen a quarterback do it as well as what he talks about doing it. Especially with the unlimited ability he has to do it with Graham Harrell. But, yeah, so no, it doesn't really worry me whatsoever going into it with the guy being good against Mike Leach air raid offense. It's just I think that we're a different kind of brand of air raid. Yeah, if people could stop asking Graham Harrell about his relationship to the air raid and how he feels like his relationship with Mike Leach, I would really appreciate it because it's just getting to the point
to that point,
because I've been feeling that way too, and I was wondering if anybody else.
It happens every time, every single time.
Everyone.
To that point, though, isn't this the least air raid offense?
I don't.
Like
yeah,
said,
it's more
of a run raid offense.
Name only. Yeah.
But like, how much is that? Just JT checking down to the run? From what it seems, Grant's really trying to open it up, and JT's just like, "Why? We got to CJ Donaldson. Why do I need to throw? Why do I need to stand back here and risk getting hit?"
Yeah, he's like, "Here you go, man. You take it. You're pretty big. You're young.
Man, you take that
out.
hit.
Get upfield, man."
They don't want to tackle him. So.
Because once they're focusing on me, that's when I'm going to pass it.
No, I think it's an air raid, like in name only. It seems because we've been extremely balanced, and I don't know. Maybe that's the Neil Brown influence, combining with Graham Harrell and kind of forming this offensive brainchild that they formed this year. Even though I know Neil said he gives Graham full autonomy to run the offense on game day, but I'm sure that he's still involved in the planning of how it was going to function and stuff for the season. So maybe that's a little bit why it looks a little bit different. But I'm glad that it looks a little bit different because I think then you don't play into people's hands as much. And like you guys said, I don't think I'm as worried hearing that just because the fact the way our offense functions, it's almost only air raid probably in as far as the type of passing concepts we run, route trees and stuff like that, really. Let's see, Grant Wiley Esquire back in here as we catch up and chat real quick. I appreciate the show, guys. Really enjoy it. We appreciate you, Grant Wiley Esquire. You're always here tuning in and chiming in, and we appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. He also asked, what is our number one key to victory for Saturday? We actually all three gave that in our preview and predictions podcast episode if you want to go check that out. But we'll touch on it again here, though, for you, Grant. And for me, it was proving people wrong as far as, a lot of people don't think West Virginia can win this game, don't think they'll be able to run the ball, don't think they'll be able to stop Texas. prove people wrong in that aspect. And then Neil Brown as well has never won 3 games in a row as West Virginia's coach. So a lot of people are marking this one down as a loss, considering we've already won 2 in a row. So he can prove people that wrong there as well. And then, of course, they're going to have to prove me wrong because I did not pick them to win. Spoiler alert. But what about you guys? Is it still the same as it was, or?
Yeah. Mine's still the same. Mine was the secondary play. Pretty lame X factor, I guess, but I think that the West Virginia secondary is going to have to show up in all facets for West Virginia to be able to stay in the game. But also, spoiler alert, I did not have the Mountaineers winning either. Unfortunately, I picked them to lose by a touchdown.
Yeah, I'll say my key to victory on Saturday was actually cleaning up the mistakes, because I think that we've made way too many mistakes. I think we've lost a lot of games under Neil Brown by making mistakes. And I think that, 'cause I wanted to bring this up because, Stephen kind of talked about is with Texas, doesn't really expect us to win, but, it's one of those things where you want to win. And I think that's because, you see the importance of this game and what winning could do for us at this point in time, but you're also understanding that losing is not going to crush us any more than what we've already felt. I don't think losing at Texas is going to set us back that much, but going into the season, I had talked about how, and I've talked about it before now, but I'm going to bring it up again because I think that it's super prevalent going forward, looking at Neil Brown and his tenure here, is, I said it didn't really matter wins and losses this year for me. It does. Obviously, I had said, if we lose to Kansas and Towson, fire Neil Brown, we lost to one of them. That Kansas team was better than I thought it would ever be. But going into the season, I was pretty sound on the fact of I understand we're going to win some games, we're going to lose some games, but it all depends on how we look. Because, we've not had very clean play under Neil Brown in the 3 years that he's been here. We just haven't. And, unless people have been watching a different football team than me, we've lost quite a few games just from stupid mental errors. And so we came into the first 2 games of the season, and I would say that we lost 2 games. I think you guys know me. I love Chris Anderson and Mike Casaza. I think they're one of the best podcasters out there covering WVU sports right now.
They're great.
And they had brought up, the fact that I didn't really pay attention to, that West Virginia had a 90% chance to win every game they've been in this season at some point in time during the game. And, you only lose that by making a mistake, making a blunder, using chess terms here. We blundered it, straight up absolutely gave it away. And so going into Texas, I don't care if we lose to Texas, but I want to lose to Texas. I don't want to lose to us. And I think that that's where it comes down to, if it's a close game, I'm going to want to win. I feel like, I say this now, but get into a game and we're winning, and we end up losing, I'm going to feel a lot different because I don't want to lose, but we got to clean up the mistakes. And I think that if we want to show that we're actually climbing, then that's like a major step that we need to take. We looked pretty sound against Virginia Tech, didn't make very many mistakes. We need to follow up that consistency against Texas. Even if we lose, we need to lose to Texas, not lose to ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that seems to be a case a lot with West Virginia. As long as I've, been a fan of West Virginia football, it seems like more often than not we beat ourselves, and that that's been the case yet again this year. Like you said, 90% chance to win every game that we've been in. Of course, the dropped pass that turns into an interception against Pitt, just something that you can't have. And then against Kansas, you got them stopped in overtime, and you get the late hit personal foul penalty. So just little things like that. I think you can't have that against Texas. So I'd 100% agree with you. We need to play as mistake free as possible in this one in order to have a chance. When I think the talent gap is there, like it is in this one. Not that West Virginia doesn't have talented, and I think, especially with the starters, West Virginia is probably just as talented, but it's the depth, that Texas has that's, unmatched by almost any program. And that's why a lot of people have been down on Texas, because of the success they haven't had despite the pieces that they've had. And that's still the case this year. They still have those pieces, and we'll see what they do with it this season. But yeah, I definitely think West Virginia needs to try and play mistake-free for sure. Like I said, continue in the chat, you guys. If you guys got any questions, we'll stay here as long as you guys drop some stuff and keep the conversation going with us a little bit. But in the meantime, if you haven't already while you're in here, hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. That'll help this video's performance and help the future videos performances as well. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't already so you can know when we go live on game weeks like this for Q&As or some impromptu live streams sometimes. But hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell there on YouTube, and they'll help you. And appreciate you guys tuning in if you're tuning in there on YouTube or if you're on Facebook or Twitch. Appreciate you tuning in there as well. And any questions you got, comments, anything you want to chime in with, drop it in the chat and we'll touch on it. But that being said, gentlemen, any other talking points you guys wanted to bring up in the meantime?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how great of a coach Bob Huggins is. Just wanted to
He's
bring that
good.
up.
He's a good coach.
He's the greatest coach. He's the greatest coach that ever lived. He's better than James Naismith himself.
I can believe it.
Than James Naismith. Hey,
Okay, I got a question. I got a football-related question,
right.
not to cut Stephen off from his,
Bobby
Tyson-
Basketball, that's his
Tyson
name.
Question. Yeah, Bobby Hoops.
Lay it on us, Brad.
Bobby Hoopins. Because we talked about this on the live when you guys post-game review, and I definitely wanted to get your guys' opinion on it, and I think that this Q&A is a good place to do it, and I'm sure people in the chat are going to have opinions. Would you keep Neil Brown if we went 6-6? If we end up going 6-6, maybe even 5-7, if we go 6-6, if it guarantees that JT Daniels comes back and Bryce Ward Wheaton?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes.
Yes.
And even furthermore, if it means that you also keep Nico in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think keeping JT Daniels for an extra year is not going to turn Nico off. I think that,
not.
I think Nico is – I think that if you're a football fan, like a football guy, a football kid, sitting behind JT Daniels and learning every bit you can from him before he goes professional is huge. But at this moment right now, like I just see it as, 6-6. JT Daniels is not – he has not been the guy for us this year. It's been C.J. Donaldson. That's been the guy that people have been talking about, JT does get some love for his post game conferences and stuff like that. And, from the coaches saying how smart of a kid he is, but he's not been the focal point this year. What he's had this year is not going to send him to the NFL, and he hasn't seemed pressed. I mean, we've talked about him checking down to the run a lot himself. He wants to win more than he wants to put stats in the book for himself. He could keep passing it and keep showing off for himself, but he hasn't. And I think that shows a want to win here. And I think that that's really exciting going forward. And so I think that, if we go 6-6 and JT Daniels, if he goes to a pro day, he's definitely going to get looked at. But if you looked at him and said, hey, our whole entire offense is going to be back next year. There's not a single person leaving that's starting.
Our entire team, pretty much, minus.
Yeah, you're losing.
I think Dante Stills is the only senior that can't come back. Is Dante Stills, I think, and maybe Taj Austin. But like I said, Sean Martin's kind of overtaking that spot and getting more playing time anyway. But I think that's far off the top of my head. That's the only two seniors that can't come back. I think is Dante Stills and Taj Austin. So West Virginia,
right? You're not going to lose anybody that's going to hurt you. You know what I mean? Like no no loss is going to be a detrimental loss for next year's season. So that's a really good point. Yes.
Yeah. So I was curious because I know we're all pretty upset with Neil Brown, but if you posed it to me that way, and I think that if it was posed to a lot of fans that way, it's like, hey, would you take another 5-7 season? That's stretching.
It hurts to
really stretching.
I need a bowl game at least.
Right. I need at least 6-7.
But like I said, would you if it was 5-7, but you got to keep JT Daniels?
Right.
Yeah, I'd still say yeah. I would. Yeah.
I'd still say yes as well. But also, what does that mean for the rest of your team? Like, we sit there and we say you got the whole team returning as a positive thing, but to get JT Daniels back and then have a mediocre squad that's just older and still mediocre.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would even argue that, our offense has not been mediocre.
Right.
Our offensive line has looked great. And what's our biggest weakness on defense? It's DBs. And what's our weakness there? and experience, right? Like I think that we could all agree on that. That it's just guys haven't been here. They're young. They've not been in the program, but it's what we're missing right now. It's just guys that haven't played back there. And if you can bring them all back next year, you're looking at an absolutely ludicrous amount of experience on both sides of the ball next year. And I think that's when you really look at it like, Neil Brown, if you can't do it now, yeah, you had a chance to kind of do it last year, but if you can't do it now, you will never do it. You will never do it here. You might never do it in Power 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. When you got those pieces, you got to make something happen. Because I don't know, but the thing is, I feel confident that West Virginia is gonna have um, a decent season this year. I think we'll definitely hit a bowl game, and we'll see what happens beyond that. But I don't know, just listening to Neil Brown talking, or maybe I'm falling under the spell again. But especially now, it seems like he's being more open about like when he first got here, listening to both the radio show tonight and also in his press conference, and he briefly touched on it a little bit. And I know the start of his tenure has been compared a lot to Mark Stoops' start of his tenure at Kentucky. I know, Stephen, you sent something, a post that you'd seen about it a while back in regards to that. And then Neil Brown coming out and saying as much because he was there for the first 2 years when that regime took over as the offensive coordinator there at Kentucky. And he said that their offensive line was really in bad shape when he got there, but they knew they were going to just struggle with the young guys and knew it was going to be 3 or 4 years till they could get it turned and, feel like they could have an offensive line that could compete. And, he said that eventually it did. And if you look at Kentucky now, they've got offensive linemen going to the NFL, year in, year out, ever since, about 5-6 years in to that coaching change there. And then in turn, Neil Brown, started talking about 2019 when he took over here and how it really mirrored Kentucky a lot and how down the roster was there. Even on the radio show tonight, he said, after the first 2 spring practices in 2019, I was like, whoa, we're in bad shape here on the offensive line. But they committed to it and knew what they needed to do because they did similar thing at Kentucky. They actually went and had some good in-state players, young players they brought in to shore up that Kentucky offensive line. Did the same thing here at West Virginia. And he said now he feels like this year that they feel like they have a good offensive line for the first time. And now it's just building on that and building depth onto that and continuing to roll that in, year out to where you just reload that offensive line. But he said he feels like they're to that point. And so to me, I think, he talked about the run game and how you couldn't run the ball. And he said if you go back and look at the games in 2019 and 2020, that they would disguise some things and to be able to dress it up to run the ball, and they could run the ball in the first half of games. But he said once teams figure it out, then you have no answer to that. He said now they have an answer to anything. Anything they do, a team figures out. We have a counter to that in the run game. And I think when he talks about that, and I look back, that West Virginia was able to stay competitive during those years, despite those things that he's saying, and didn't really get blown out except for, 1 or 2 times that I can think of off the top of my head. They were still in 1-score, 2-score games with as bad as the roster was. Then I got to think that with the pieces now, he should be able to win. So I'm hoping, and I'm a little bit more optimistic for a better second half of the season than I was a couple weeks ago. And I could be, fooled yet again, but I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. What about you guys? Where you sit now compared to a couple weeks ago, as far as what you think the season can be?
Well, that remains to be seen, I guess. Like I said, I still need to see how we play against a quality Texas team in Austin. And so the way I think about it is, if we're going to get to 8 wins, we're going to have to win 6 out of the next 8 games, right? So how attainable is that? And looking at the schedule, it's kind of 50-50 right now. There's some good teams the more you get into the schedule. Kansas State's looking really good right now. Texas Tech's looking really good right now. Texas is looking really good right now. TCU. I mean, there's a whole bunch of teams. Well, TCU hadn't looked all that great, I guess, but there's a whole bunch of teams in the Big 12 Conference that, are very losable games. So, to that to what all the stuff that you just said, I think that West Virginia is really going to, if they're going to be in these games, they're going to have to find ways to win the majority of them. And that means you're going to have to play every single snap. There's no plays off. There's no, little, just miscue penalties and things like that. Like, we got to clean all that stuff up if we're going to be a good team, not to mention a great team moving forward. I think it's attainable. I think that this team has all of the pieces, whether that be veteran players, or some of these younger guys, like Jacoby Spells. I think he looks like, granted, I've only seen him in one game of action, but what I've seen of him looks better than the however many games I've seen out of Wesley McCormick, so I think we have players that can get the job done. I'll say that. I just hope that we can have those players in the right places at the right time.
Yeah, I'd agree. It remains to be seen, and I think Saturday's going to tell us a lot, like you said, for sure, as to which way that it's going to go. But I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic right now, definitely more so than I was a few weeks ago after the Kansas game, when you couldn't tell me anything was positive really at that point. But Bradley,
which Kansas playing the way they have been really helps that. I will say that.
Yeah, true. That's true. Kansas has definitely, the way that they've played has definitely lessened the impact of that loss and how detrimental we thought it was. But yeah, I'd agree. It helps for sure. Brad, what are you thinking though for the rest of the season in comparison to how you were feeling, a couple weeks ago about this time?
Obviously, going 2-2 going 2-2 after going 0-2 is the best thing you can do, right? Winning is big, but I've definitely taken a more critical tone, I think, the last couple of weeks, and I'm sticking to that quite vehemently. I'm at that point where it's just I feel like I have to be. I can't. I feel like I've been the world's worst for just putting on the gold and blue glasses and predicting us to go 10-2 last year, and really just buying into everything that I've been told, and really pulling that Band-Aid off has been tough. But I think it's made me appreciate where we're at a little bit more, honestly, and the fact that I can look at us and be a little bit optimistic without breaking my realistic view, in saying that Pitt was a good team. We lost to Pitt by making, mistakes. We played a really good Kansas team. Kansas has looked good. I think the teams will have more of an answer for them as the year goes on and they learn their offense a little bit more. We didn't have that luxury. We got Kansas second game of the season, didn't know what their offense was going to look like. We got caught off guard and got beat. We lost that game because of mistakes. We turned around and cleaned it up and stomped Towson the way we absolutely should. Turn around and beat Virginia Tech. We probably could have ran up the score at the end, handled them solidly, and we looked good. We cleaned up the mistakes against Virginia Tech. We had one false start on a 4th and 1, and that to me is progress. And so going into our future, it's like one of those things where my key to victory, cleaning up mistakes, means so much. Like, it means so much going into it, because if they can clean up mistakes for the rest of the year, then we can do what Steven said. We can win 6 out of the next 8. I guarantee it. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Even with our defense being struggle bus city right now, and our DBs are, in my opinion, going to get better every single game. I want to see more Jacoby Spells. I like to see the movement. I like that a lot. It makes me happy. But because I think that he's going to get better every week, and so if we can just clean up the dumb mental mistakes, the horrible game costing mistakes that we've been making, boy, we'd be 4-0 right now, and we wouldn't even be thinking about the discussions that we've had. And so going forward to it, I really don't think that there's a team in this league that we couldn't hang with. If we just cleaned up the mental mistakes, if we just cleaned up the sloppy play, and let alone if our defense starts clicking, because if our defense comes out here and has an improvement just from Virginia Tech to this week, that's going to be massive. And, if they could take another step after Texas going into the bye week, going into Baylor, whether you beat these two teams or not, if you just show progress, less mistakes, a little bit better coverage, then yeah, you've really got a chance to make a hot run at it at the end of October going into November, and that's super exciting to me. Do I think we're going to get there? I don't know. I'm not going to buy into that train yet. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh well, we've gotten our rights wrong. I had good old Paul Riggs on Twitter. Meet him. He's a real great guy, but I think that he was in here last time, or somebody was in here last time saying, no, give us more credit for beating Virginia Tech. I won't do that. Virginia Tech was a bad team. They were horrible. That was a really bad team. And, we could have beat them more than what we did, so I'm glad the way we beat them how we did. But that was a bad team. And I'm not going to give them credit for beating a bad team. I just can't.
We got to
I'm at that point where you can. Yeah, I'm at that point where you can convince me to get back on the climb. You really can. But until Neil Brown proves to me that he can clean up those mistakes and gets his team to peak performance where we need them to be, I'm not there yet. But I can see the optimistic path going forward.
Yeah, in the metaphorical universe, if you want me back on the climb, you're going to have to throw a rope down and pull me back up onto that, onto that level where I was at.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a great way of putting it, because that's kind of, I think, where we all are right now. Because it's not that we don't believe that they can't turn it around and that they may be on that path already. Because, like Steven said, the conference is wide open. Any of these teams left can beat us, but we could also. There's not a team left on the schedule that West Virginia can't play with either. So it's just kind of a wait and see approach right now of which way it's going to go, I guess. And I think that's also maybe what's so frustrating is that we can see that we're so close. We're in these games, and when we lose, it's 1-score games, and we're just waiting on us to kind of turn that corner, to where we're going in that right direction. And right now we're just kind of in that almost like that purgatory area. We don't know which way we're going. Right now, I guess. So I don't know, but I'm like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic, more so than a few weeks ago. We got John Covey Cole in here from the Mountaineer Ramble. What's going on, John Covey Cole? Good to see you in here, man. He says, "Big Bubba Brad, you're right. Tech sucks. We won. That's what there is to be positive about. I'm afraid people are going to be ready to shit can Neil Sunday morning. Yeah, I'm a little bit afraid of that as well. It's depending on if they don't show up, against Texas, you're going to hear it's going to be coming again for sure."
Yeah, we've all come to expect that. It pretty much happens every time. Every time, even when we expect to lose a game, not expect to lose a game, but not really expect to win a game. I'll say that. That sounds a little bit better. It always seems to, we can sit here and talk in the fan base all week long about, man, it's going to be really, really tough to beat this team. This team's really good. And then you lose to them by 1 point and you actually put up a good fight. And then the whole fan base is calling, to fire everybody, fire the president, fire the athletic director, fire the coaching staff, fire the cheerleaders, fire the mascot, fire everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where it feels honestly worse to lose by 1 point than 2 touchdowns. Because you go into it, you're like, last year in Oklahoma, it's like, we're not going to win this game. We're walking into Norman. This team looks really good. There's no way we're going to win this game. And you're like, oh, we could win this game. And it's like, but we didn't win the game. And then you're more upset about it because you're like, we could have won the game. I would have been more happy just knowing we were going to get blown out. And it's like you're more upset about it because you could have won it. And it's like so frustrating. Just blue balls.
Well, and to be honest with you, I'm more frustrated today than I was then, because thinking back, I still to this day think if you played Garrett Green the entire 4 quarters of that game, you win the football game. I think you win that football game by at least a touchdown or more with the way that offense.
Yeah, I'm mad about it too. Let's fire Nick Brown. He's just
well, that's not what I was trying to.
Oh, I know.
Anyway,
I was saying, it got me mad too. And all this progress that I've already built up for trying to rebuild my relationship with Nick Brown has just been torn down because you reminded me about how mad we should be about this.
No, I was just kidding. No.
You're right, Steven. Fire Nick Brown. Steven said it here first.
Yeah, but later after JT Daniels and Nico leave. Yeah.
Blame Steven. He's leading the train. He's leading that mob.
Yeah, come on, ears.
It's like we're trying to climb. We just said try and wait.
No, I think overreactions. I think overreactions following a loss is typical of probably every fan base, especially when you got a coach where there's been rumors flying around already. We're probably going to have to deal with that after every loss that happens this season, to be quite honest with you. It's just going to be a theme. But, I don't, that is what it is. Fans are going to do what fans do. So I just try not to let it bother me too much. Just cheer for the Mountaineers and hope they wins all we can do, and sit here and talk about it either way, like we always do. But yeah, I agree. I think those close games are the ones that bother me the most, specifically like in the Neil Brown era. The loss that I think for whatever reason still sticks with me the most and stung me the most was to Texas. I believe it was the COVID year. We were down 3 or 4, driving late, 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. Ran a RPO, tried to hit Ollie Jennings. The Texas defender held him. They didn't call it. Neil Brown's going crazy. Texas needs it out, wins by 3 or 4. And I literally remember after that, when that 4th down and we didn't convert, just like collapsing in the floor, just like hello darkness, my old friend. And then I was miserable.
I think I was actually at your house for that game.
You probably
if I
were.
remember correctly, because it was the COVID year, so I wasn't at any of the games that year.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. I don't know. I remember that one. I just remember that one specifically. It still sticks with me. I was upset for like a day or two after that one, and that was like the last game that I really got upset about before this year, before 2022. But for the Neil Brown era, that one sticks with me. I know it's like I thought about it when you were talking about close losses versus being blown out. Like I'd rather Texas blown us out that game, just them to be right there and have it and let it slip through your hands at the end. That's always the worst for sure. But that being said, gentlemen, yeah, like just John Covey Cole says the best hindsight is always 2020. John Covey Cole, while he's in here, might as well shout them out. If you guys don't check it out, you got to check it out on Facebook, The Mountaineer Ramble. I believe it's on Monday nights, if I'm not mistaken, this year. But they do a great job covering the Mountaineers there, and they're a really awesome show that they do a great job with. So check that out if you haven't before. But that being said, gentlemen, we'll get out of here before too much longer. I appreciate everybody that's chimed in and chat and kept this thing rolling tonight, whether you tuned in on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. And like I said, one more time, if you are on YouTube, though, hit that like button, give us the thumbs up before you run out of here. Even if you're watching on the replay, on the playback, you can hit that thumbs up for us, and that'll help the channel and help us continue to grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. That being said, guys, as has been tradition kind of on the Game Week Q&A live streams, let's pick our prediction for the first play of the game for the Mountaineers on offense and who scores the first touchdown. Bradley, what you got this week?
First play of the game. I'm going to steal Steven's answer, and I'm going to say inside zone to Teddy Mathis.
Hey.
Yeah, might as well.
Does Teddy Mathis get the start? Probably. I don't know.
I think they'll go back.
That was going to be, I think he's going to get the start. But I think at this point, I think that it's, he only has the starting position for the title.
He's a sophomore. He's the oldest guy. Redshirt sophomore. He's the oldest guy there.
True.
Yeah. CJ's the main guy.
Trying to catch people off guard. I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna switch it up. I'll say outside zone to Mathis.
Okay.
I don't think that we want to run it into the inside. I don't think our first play we're going to try to pound it up the middle into their massive tackle. So
I think game plan wise, we're going to have to go outside if we want to go inside later. Have to go outside first. I think stretch them out a little bit.
Yeah, first touchdown of the game, Michael Laughlin.
Oh, I like it. Spicy, redeeming himself for the drop. Redeeming himself for the drop TD. I like it. Steven, what do you got? What do you got this week?
All right, I've got a flea flicker.
I wouldn't be surprised.
A flea flicker over the top.
Interesting.
Preston Fox comes in off the sideline, clotheslines a defender, and makes a one-handed catch to the corner of the end zone.
I mean,
first play.
I'm here for it.
First play and first touchdown, all on the same one.
Oh yeah, man. And we win the game because the play's so awesome. They end the game right then and there, and they just pronounce us the league champions.
Hey, man, that sounds like a great year to me. I'm here for it. Let's do it.
No, as much as I want to go play action for the first play, that's just not going to happen. I'm going inside zone.
It would be smart. That's what
it would be.
Caught it every time.
We did it a bunch in Dana era, but I have not seen play action out of the gate in Neil Brown's offense. Not one time, not once. Well, not Neil Brown's, but
Grams,
even before
Neils,
here, you'd never
whoever's.
seen that. You never really. I mean, you open up a pass sometimes, but it's never really one of those like play action over the top shots.
Yeah.
You don't really take chances early. So I'm gonna keep it going, man. Inside zone, Tony Mathis. First touchdown. And I think this is one of those games where big plays matter. I think C.J. Donaldson breaks one. I think he's got our first tug of the day.
I like it. I'm going. I'm gonna be the oddball. I think first play of the day, screen pass to Caden Prather, a little tunnel screen. Like I said, they're gonna try and work outside. So I think they'll throw a quick little tunnel screen to either Bryce Ford Wheaton or Caden Prather. Pick what you want on the outside there. But I think they'll probably be keying on BFW more, as has kind of been the case since early in the season. So I'm gonna say screen to Prather, start the game. Something a little different. First touchdown of the game. Justin Johnson.
Ooh,
That's who's going.
like
That's
that.
who I'm going with.
Also, have you been keeping the stats on these? I know you keep the stats on the season prediction roundtable stuff.
No, I haven't. I know that you got a couple right for sure. I know you got
I was gonna
first
say,
play right
man,
a couple times.
I want to just do away with the season prediction roundtable stats, and we're just going to go off of these stats from now on. Because these are the stats the only stats I'm good at.
Speaking of which, Kuz is doing pretty good in those. He's 3-1.
Yeah,
one loss.
he's 3-1
Yeah,
right
he
now.
is. Yeah, Kuz
I mean,
was the only one seeing through regular glasses, I think.
Well, that's as to be expected. I knew Kuz. I was like, Kuz is going to come here and show us all up, of course. Shout out to Kuz. Kuz's corner.
Kuz is
on
intelligent.
YouTube.
Got to give
I had us losing this game in preseason. Do you guys remember what you had?
I had us losing, yeah.
Pretty sure. Did I have us losing?
I think you had us
losing.
I don't know. I got the
had us
notes
losing
somewhere. I don't. It's over on the other side of the room.
No, I had us losing to Tech. Surely that was before I knew what kind of team they had, just in my defense. And I might have had them going on the road. I thought I had them going on the road and losing to Texas and then bouncing back.
I think that's what it was.
No, I had them on a
I'm
3-game
pretty
slid.
sure.
I had them on a 3-game skid, remember?
Yeah,
Slid,
that's
yeah.
right. That's right.
You heard me right
Yeah,
there.
because you did that at that point, and then because the last 4 games, I had them winning only one of the last 4 games because I had them starting off with a lot of wins. Yep, that's right. Yeah, that makes more sense. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Also, that's probably not right. I probably just made that up to
I know I had us losing to
that's why
Texas and Baylor.
That's why I write it down as we go through the season prediction roundtable. So I got it there. It's like when I make the graphics, I know for sure that I'm right. So the graphics are right. So.
Just a little spoiler: if we beat Texas, I'm all in on beating Baylor.
I like it.
I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm not going to say that yet.
I think I'm all in
Baylor's
on
still
that either
pretty
way.
good.
Regardless of the outcome of this game, I'm all in on that.
I can still believe this.
Cruz isn't balled in on Baylor, but I am.
I think I think that if we beat Texas, I think it's guaranteed that we're going to take it to Baylor.
I would love to say yes, but
my camera died. I'm gonna switch my battery out. I'm right here. I'm still here.
Oh,
though.
Lord.
Y'all go ahead.
I would love to say yes, but the whole factor of, and I hate to play this card, but Baylor has not won in Morgantown yet, and they're pretty good this year. And Morgantown at night, on a Thursday night, no less. That's special. I will give you that. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that I'm not being too pessimistic. But I don't know. I don't see it yet.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I think that if we beat Texas, I think that first off, if we beat Texas, we've not made any mistakes. Because I fully believe in that. And I think
unless Texas has a bad game, which is possible.
I'll take it. Texas is gonna have a bad game.
Yeah.
They let what was it? They let UTSA right score 21 points.
Yeah,
Was it
UTSA?
Yeah, but they also let
UTSA
Alabama
played with them
score
there for a half.
Yeah.
They let Alabama and UTSA score the same amount of points. Let's just put it that way. To me, they played to their competition.
But also, we do have a realistic understanding that this Texas game could also completely crack our team, right? It could have.
Yeah, That's what I'm worried about. I think. Well, that's kind of what I feel like. I feel like the loser of this game is going to go down that road because Texas has already shown, like last season when they started losing, they just kept rolling and rolling and rolling.
West Virginia
Last year I
too.
think when we faced them, they lost what 6 or 7 straight, and then we beat them too last year, and then like you said, West Virginia has done that as well. So, and then whoever loses this game, like I said, is 0-2 in conference, so they're going to feel like they're out of the conference race. So, it really is, I think, a make or break game.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. This thing could snowball really fast. I absolutely agree with that.
Yep, 100%, 100%. That being said, I definitely wanted to take a second out and plug the post-game live stream, which will be immediately following the game, probably a little bit after 11 p.m. Saturday night. Check that out on the Voice of College Football YouTube channel, and we'll be running post-game shows immediately following all the West Virginia games there this season. So subscribe to the Voice of College Football YouTube or the West Virginia Mountaineers at the Voice of College Football YouTube channel. Subscribe to them both. If you aren't subscribed to us, subscribe to us too. All 3 channels there, but definitely check us out there post-game for our immediate thoughts. And then, of course, our more refined thoughts will come in episode 139 of the CRW podcast. That'll come out on Sunday or Monday. But immediately following the game, you can get our thoughts and also hop in the chat, let off some steam, or celebrate with us if it's a win. So definitely wanted to plug that. But anything else you guys can think of we need to plug or you guys want to touch on before we get ready to wrap up this week's Q&A stream?
No, I just want to do, I know a lot of people weren't really in here. Not a whole lot of people anyway, when we first started the show and I brought up the first topic of conversation, but, leave it in the comments after the video and everything on your thoughts and everything. But really what we were discussing is, with the possibility of the school maybe building a stadium or a football stadium in the future, within the next decade or so. What are your thoughts on possibly renovating and keep updating Milan Puskar Stadium, or are you more on the side of building a new football stadium and having easier parking and access, in terms of like ease of access, I guess I should say, for fans getting in and out of there, concession stands, bathrooms, things like that. Just multitude of reasons. Just want to hear, a lot of people's general thoughts on that. But yeah, leave your comments down there on what you guys think. And wanted to.
Absolutely. And that's if you're watching on the playback, even drop them in the comments for sure. Comment on the video is also a great way for us to for it to perform better as well as hitting the like button. So definitely want those comments, and we want to hear Mountaineer Nation's thoughts on what they want for the future of the stadium, whether it be Milan Puskar or somewhere else, or just what you guys are kind of feeling about it. You heard ours here at the beginning, so we want to hear yours as well. And we always love interacting and hearing from Mountaineer Nation. But Bradley, what about you? Anything you want to touch on here before we get ready to close this one out?
Yeah, I've just got one thing.
Horns down, baby.
Beautiful.
Send it.
Yeah, may not be able to do that again. This might be the last one, so get them in.
Beat
Get them
Texas,
in this
baby.
weekend.
Beat Texas forever.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, is
Hopefully Mountaineers do it.
anybody besides Cruz? Because I know the Cruz has. Anybody seen Friday Night Lights?
You know it.
Yeah.
One
They
of the
say
greatest
Texas
ever.
forever. Well, it's beat Texas forever, baby.
Beat Texas forever.
Forever.
I love it. I love it. Tim Riggins. Tim Riggins is the greatest.
Also, if you haven't watched that show, you should watch it. It's a really good show.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Great plug.
Started
That being
watching Better
said,
Call Saul.
oh, I need to catch up on that. I've only seen like the first 2 seasons, so I haven't finished the second season actually. So I got a
I'm only on the first
lot to
one,
catch up
so
on, but
I'm behind.
it's a good show. It's a good show. Well, I guess that'll do it for the Q&A stream this week. I appreciate you guys that tuned in, whether you're tuned in on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We'll be back again to do another one of these next week. Well, maybe we might do. Yeah, we'll probably do one on the bye week too. We'll need some filler stuff for bye week content.
We'll figure out something.
We'll do a stream during the bye week at some point. We'll see. We'll keep you guys updated on when that'll be. Like I said, just tune in on the social medias there as you see them on the screen. Twitter at WVU Country Roads, Facebook and Instagram Country Roads Webcast for updates on that. And then, of course, if you want to follow all 3 of us individually on Twitter, You see Bradley's there on the screen at Big Bubba Brad, CRW. Stevens is at Pitt Still Sucks, but that's 3 L's in the still. And then I'm at Cruise Control WV. Like I said, post-game live show here on our channel if you want to watch it here, or you can watch it on the Voice of College Football channel or the West Virginia at the Voice of College Football channel immediately following the game. Be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, plenty more content coming on the channel following the game. But hopefully it's a Mountaineer win that we'll be talking about on that post game. But either way, come join with us and chat about it with us, and we'll talk about it either way. And we will continue to do that as the season progresses. That being said, appreciate you guys for tuning in. For Bradley and Steven, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go, Mountaineers.